just we will revise the column chromatography. So we have seen in the beginning itself, the column chromatography is the chromatography by which the discovery of chromatography has started by Michael Sweat, and we have seen the Michael Sweat, who was a botanist, have taken the plant extract, and those plant extract were loaded in a glass column which is packed with the calcium carbonate as a stationary phase, and he has used the petroleum ether as a mobile phase. And what he did, the plant extract were loaded on the top of the column, and those were the colored components. So when they started migrating over the surface of the stationary phase, they migrated based on their own retention time or adsorption time, and he could able to see the development of different color bands in the column, and then he separated those, and those were the plant pigments. Okay, so that is how the discovery of chromatography started. So after discovering the column chromatography, the chromatography evolved like anything. So we have number of chromatographic techniques at present, and they are widely used in industries, not only in pharmaceuticals but in other areas also. So chromatography technique finds lot of applications, wide acceptability due to its sophistication, and it is a very powerful technique to separate the components into individual fractions. Okay, so I told you even up to picogram or nanogram we can detect, and we can separate, and we can quantify these components using a chromatographic technique. And once we separate these components into individual fractions to a great extent, we can also club the chromatography with the spectroscopic technique, taking an advantage of structural elucidation, where we can analyze or we can predict what could be the structure of that particular compound by hyphenating the chromatography with the spectroscopy. Okay, so the column chromatography, what was discovered, that was a very conventional and very primitive, but still for certain applications like purification of our crude compounds when we do the synthesis, or the purification of our crude extract is now still used in our research laboratories, or to some extent in a smaller level even it at industries. Okay, so even nowadays in research lab we could find the use of column chromatography for separation of compounds at a macro level. Okay, the limitation are there for column chromatography. So one of the major limitation for column chromatography is the micro level of substances cannot be separated. Okay, so if I have the compound which need to be separated below 0.5 gram or even less than 1 milligram, then the column chromatography is not useful. Another limitation of column chromatography is the time. So column chromatography usually consumes lot of time, and as it is a manual system, because manually you have to prepare the solvent system, manually you have to add the solvent system, and manually you have to check what compound is eluting or coming out of the column, because you do not have any detector which can detect what is eluting from the column. So either you have to use some techniques like UV tube light, or the UV gun, or you have to use some techniques like iodine chamber, and you have to detect what components are eluting. Then you have to run a TLC, and you have to compare with the crude or the standard, and then you have to isolate those compounds. So that makes quite tedious, and it is quite difficult, right? But of course by practice and by skill you can also perform column chromatography in a better way, and that's what is done nowadays in research lab also. But it has a limitations, right? The major limitation is the time, and another is the levels at what we can separate the compounds. So micro compounds cannot be separated, and if you have very complex type of compounds which has multiple components to be separated, which has a very close RF value, then usually it is difficult, and doing gradient elution in column chromatography is somewhat tedious, and because of that the another techniques of chromatography has come. So we have a technique which is popularly used in industry. So what if we have the solvent preparation which is to be done in an automatic way? Okay, so we require a solvent system, right? So in chromatography, in column chromatography, if you say the mobile phase what you are pouring in a column, usually it is a combination of multiple solvents to adjust a particular polarity. So usually we prepare those solvent system in a manual way by measuring those solvent volume in a measuring cylinder and so on, but that will have certain errors. So what if we have the automated system which can pump a particular solvent from a particular bottle and mix it in appropriate way, so that will be convenient way. So sophistication can be done in the solvent system preparation. What if we have instead of simply pouring the solvent system in a column, what if we have a tubing system which can take the solvent system into the column? What if we have a pressurized system? Because what we do in column chromatography, we add the solvent system on the top of the column, and usually the column is adjusted in a vertical direction where the solvent system moves towards the gravitational force. So gravitational force is not sufficient because it takes a lot of time. So what if we are pressurizing, forcing the solvent system to forcefully move through the stationary phase which is packed inside the column, so we can increase the flow rate and we can minimize the time of separation. That can be done in sophistication. What if we have the sophisticated system which can inject the sample what we want to separate? Because usually in column chromatography what we do, we take the sample manually, whether it is in a solid form or liquid form, and we inject or we just pour that, or we sprinkle that powder or a liquid into the packed column, the top of the packed column, right? So again that will have certain errors. You may lose some of the samples during the injection or loading. So what if we have the automated system, maybe a manual injection or the automatic injection called as auto sampler, to inject a particular sample with a very accurate amount of volume, which is very essential for quantification purpose, right? And then we have a column in place which has a certain number of theoretical plates, and rather than manually assessing what is eluting from the column, if we have a detector which can sense even a picogram quantities what is coming out of the column, and with respect to that we have a recorder here. So we have a computerized system which is connected to a particular software which can understand the language of detector, and it will convert into the 101 system into the understandable format as a chromatogram, which we can understand. And by looking at the chromatogram, again with the help of software, we can analyze what is area under the peak, what is the peak height, and so on. We can identify and we can also quantify the peaks which are separating through the column to a great extent. So this is a very nice idea, and this has been taken from the column chromatography discovery. So this is a kind of invention. By taking the discovery of chromatographic technique, the HPLC has been invented. So this is a picture showing the HPLC instrument, which is very widely used in the pharmaceutical and other industries. So H represents the high, P represents the performance. Earlier days it was called as a pressure, but the more precise term is the performance. So P stands for performance, and LC is the liquid chromatography. Okay, LC is a liquid chromatography. So what is liquid chromatography? In a liquid chromatography, the stationary phase is liquid and the mobile phase is also liquid. Okay, so it is a liquid chromatography, which is abbreviated as a LC, and we are using a high pressure. So the solvent system is pressurized to pass through a column to minimize the time of separation, and because of that we can increase the performance of separation. We can increase the performance of analysis by utilizing the sophisticated techniques, and this is known as HPLC. Okay, so it is a high performance liquid chromatography. So what I have shown in the earlier slide, that was just a schematic diagram, but this is how the instrument actually looks like. So this is a HPLC system, and you can see on the top of this particular system there are bottles. So these bottles are called as HPLC bottles, or they are called as the solvent reservoirs. And you can see here there are 3 different bottles. Okay, so what these 3 different bottle means, I can keep 3 different solvents in this particular bottle, and the bottle have a cap which has a small bore through which we can have a tubing. Okay, so this tubing will take out the solvent from this particular bottle, each of these bottle, and it can mix in a auto mixer. So here we can see this is called as the solvent reservoir tray. So this is a solvent reservoir tray where we can keep the mobile phase solvent bottles. Okay, and here you can see there are 2 systems. So these are nothing but 2 pumps. Okay, so this is a binary system, and in this binary system we have 2 pressurized pump which is pressurizing the solvent system, which can be passed through a column. And here we have a controls. Okay, so we can set what pressure we want to regulate for a particular mobile phase. So here we have 2 pumps, we can name it as pump A and pump B. So by taking the help of 2 pumps, we are pressurizing the solvent system. And here there is a knob. So we'll discuss in instrumentation what is the use of this particular knob. And here there is a pump assembly. So if anything goes wrong, you can make correction in that. So this is a detector. Okay, so this is a detector. So there are different types of detector. What kind of sample you have, based on that we can assemble a particular detector. So usually the most commonly used detector in HPLC is a UV visible detector, because most of the pharmaceutical compounds, they have conjugation and they are UV active. So we are using the UV detector by default in any HPLC system. And then we have the auto sampler. So this system has equipped with the auto sampler. So what you can do, you can open this. Okay, and then there is a sample tray where we can keep the sample bottles, and there is a auto injector which has a syringe and needle. So it will take the predetermined or the required amount of sample from that particular vial which you have assigned, and it will inject into the column. Okay, so usually on the right side, which is not visible here, but you have a column holder clips here on the right side of this particular system, which can hold the column comfortably, and the direction is also mentioned with the arrow marks where the column is placed. Okay, so there are again certain sophisticated instruments where the thermostat is also applicable, where you can maintain the column in a particular temperature environment, and there is another cabinet here which can have a thermostatic pressure in which you can keep your column. Okay, and then system is connected to the monitor and the hardware which can display what is going on in the column, and which peaks are arriving at what particular time and at what particular intensity. So you can use this particular software and you can analyze the chromatogram, and you can use it for your qualitative as well as quantitative application. So this is a brief introduction of the HPLC. So now we are aware what is chromatography. So it is basically the physical method for separation in which the mixture of analyte is separated using the 2 phases. So 2 phases are nothing but the stationary phase and the mobile phase. Okay, so this we have already discussed. So coming to the advantages of column chromatography, it is inexpensive. So you do not require much to spend for doing a column chromatography, because it involves simple glass column, then glass rod, and you should have to have cotton or sand, and it is quite simple, and it is good for preparative work, because if you want to purify the compounds which are crude after synthesis or extraction, you can separate them at a macro level. And the disadvantages are, as I told you, they are slow, the resolution is not much high, and it is very difficult to quantitate the sample or analyte after separating the from the column chromatography. Okay, so we have already discussed what separation mechanisms we have in a column chromatography. So nowadays in modern liquid chromatography, so now here onwards, rather than saying HPLC, it is usually practiced as to say only a liquid chromatography. So LC is understood, it is a HPLC. So LC is nothing but HPLC. So we will be discussing as LC here onwards, which is nothing but HPLC. So in modern liquid chromatography or LC, we use a pump rather than separating the components with the help of gravity. So that will speed up the separation. Columns are packed with small particles, and that will provide the mass transfer, better mass transfer, because we have seen the Van Dimter equation, which clearly indicates the Eddy's diffusion. So what is Eddy's diffusion? It is a measurement of packing irregularities, and where you have to pack the column in a regular and uniform way, and the particle diameter of the stationary phase should be uniform and it should be small as possible, which can keep the Eddy's diffusion very less. So for that we have a LC system in a modern days, which is packed with the very fine and uniform stationary phase, and usually we have a ready-made columns rather than packing the columns manually, which makes our job very simple. Then we have variety of online detectors. Now detectors plays an important role to sense and quantify the particular analyte which is coming out of the column, right? So they should be very sensitive, and it can quantify the lowest concentration of analyte which is eluting from the column. And here the beauty of this particular sophistication is we have a facility which can connect the multiple detectors online. Now let's say I have a UV detector in place in the instrument, and I will also have the let's say PDA detector, so that is a photodiode array detector. So if the compound is not detected in UV, I can also connect the PDA detector online. So during the chromatographic run, without switching off the instrument or repeating the experiment, the same eluent, the analyte which is coming out of the column, can be directed to two different detectors or even multiple detectors. Okay, so that is how we can take an advantage of this sophistication, and we can accurately determine the concentration. And there is always a flexibility to use this LC system for variety of applications. Now coming to the advantages, this LC system is widely applicable, right? As I told you, many industries are using, and it has a very high resolution, and you can quickly do your quantification of samples, because in industry we have a lot of samples coming out from the manufacturing units, and you can perform assay or whatever kind of quantification or qualification you want to do in a rapid analysis time, right? And it has a very high sensitivity. So even at picogram, I told you, you can quantify your samples, steroids or even biological samples can very comfortably detected using the LC system. It has a very excellent reproducibility, so which is very important as far as the regulatory authorities guidelines are concerned. So you can reproduce your experiment if you are doing with the LC, and the major application is it is a quantitative method. You can easily automate it. So why to use HPLC? Because you can perform a simultaneous analysis, right? So let's say you have in pharmaceuticals the multi-component formulations. So without separating those components into individual fractions, that is actually done in chromatography. Otherwise you have to separate them from each other, and then you have to subject for a particular method of analysis. But in this case, simultaneously the samples will be separated and it will be quantified. The high resolution makes our job very easier for quantification. Sensitivity is better. Small sample size, even at picogram or parts per million or parts per billion, can also be detected. Good repeatability, then moderate analysis condition can be needed, no specialized condition. And unlike GC, because in gas chromatography we will be discussing in the future classes, gas chromatography is a technique where we use a mobile phase as a gas, and stationary phase can be solid or liquid. But the limitation of GC is we need to have the sample into a vaporized condition. So those samples which are thermomobile cannot be detected with the GC. So that is a major limitation. Then we can fractionate the sample very easily, and we can purify the sample. And the most important thing, the LC or HPLC is a non-destructive. So especially when you are dealing with the biological samples or biological fluids, where the amount of sample is very less, and you can quantify that particular sample, and once the analysis is done, you can recover your sample and you can use it for some other work. So your sample will not be destroyed at all, rather it will be purified in a particular LC system. So that is a great advantage of HPLC. And if I consider the scope of LC, it is absolutely beyond our discussion here. So you can name a particular field where HPLC can be applied. So it can be used in biochemical, then food products, then industrial chemical industries, and even forensic chemistry, or the forensic field. It is widely used for this doping test and all. In environmental field also, for analyzing various pesticides, herbicides, it can be used. And clinical medicine, where we are using various clinical trials, we can study the drug metabolites, then we can study the levels of hormones. In clinical medicine and clinical chemistry, it has wide applications. And of course in pharmaceuticals we have lot of applications for this particular HPLC, and that makes there is a need to study this particular sophisticated technique in this particular syllabus. So we have discussed there are various modes of separation in the basic terminologies, that is normal phase and reverse phase. Then there are certain other techniques like ion exchange, size exclusion, affinity, which will be considered as a miscellaneous techniques we will be discussing in the coming classes. So we have already seen this, what is normal phase, where the stationary phase is polar and mobile phase is non-polar. And there are various types of stationary phases which are polar in nature. Usually silica is widely preferred. So in normal phase, as the mobile phase is non-polar, so in a chromatogram, the one which is non-polar will be eluted first, which will have a least retention time. Okay. So here we have given an example of different dioctyl phthalate, dioctyl, dibutyl, diethyl and dimethyl. So you can see here the one which is highly non-polar will be eluted first, okay, and the remaining. So you can see dioctyl is eluting first, then dibutyl, then diethyl and dimethyl. Okay, so dimethyl is highly polar, so that's why it is eluting at longer time, because it has a good affinity with the stationary phase. Then we have a reverse phase, where the stationary phase is non-polar and mobile phase is polar, which usually involve a hydrophobic interaction with the stationary phase. So you can see here A is less polar, because in reverse phase the nature of the stationary phase is non-polar. So I have told you like dissolves like. So the one which is similar to the stationary phase will have strong affinity with the stationary phase, and the one which is similar to the mobile phase will be carried out through the column or through the stationary phase very fast in the reverse phase chromatography. Okay, so you can see here B is more polar, so that's why it is having a hydrophobic interaction with the stationary phase, where A is less polar, so it is having a lipophilic interaction with the stationary phase. So this we have already discussed. Then we have seen the various types of stationary phase in reverse phase, where C18 is most widely used, which is abbreviated as ODS column. It is called as octadecylsilane. So we have C8, C4, phenyl and tetramethylsilane type of column. Cyano is also used for special type of applications, and here it is exactly reverse. So the one which is highly polar, will be eluted first, which has the least retention time in a chromatogram, and so on. So the one which is eluting at last, that will be highly non-polar. It is exactly opposite to that of the normal phase. Okay. So coming to the basic instrumentation part of this particular instrument. So we have a pump to deliver the mobile phase at pressure. Then we need to have an injection system to incorporate our sample into a column. Then we need to have a column which is considered as the heart of any chromatographic system, where actually the separation happens. So column is the major component in any chromatographic system, which is responsible for eluting separating, purifying the components, and of course we should have to have a detector which can detect what is coming in what amount and so on, and we should have a data system to operate, control the instrument and process the signal given by the detector into a understandable format. Okay. Now in chromatographic system, especially with the LC, again the two terminologies are very widely applicable, that is the possible configuration. So we have already discussed while discussing the introductory part of chromatography, that is two possible modes are applicable, that is isocratic and gradient. Now in case of LC, isocratic can be again configured into two ways, that is low pressure gradient and high pressure gradient. Okay. So this we have already seen. I hope there is no need for this to discuss here. So this is isocratic, where we are not changing the composition of a particular mobile phase, it remains same throughout the experiment, and the other one is a gradient system, where we gradually increase or decrease the polarity of a mobile phase over the period of time for resolving the complex type of substances. So isocratic is the first mode, which is called a simple mode, where we are not changing the composition of the solvent system, and it is kept throughout the experiment, and the other one is a gradient dilution. Okay. So even we have discussed these chromatograms, and now we are able to understand what is the difference between isocratic and gradient dilution. Okay. So what is there in LC isocratic system? Okay. So in LC isocratic system, as I told you, iso is a similar, so we have a same composition of the mobile phase or the solvent system. So you can see here there is a mobile phase which is kept in a reservoir bottle, which is pumped by this particular pump. So we have a tubing here which is taking or sucking the solvent system, and then we have a injector here which can inject. So here we can inject our sample which we want to analyze, and then we have a column which is mainly separating our components into fractions, and then the outlet of the column is connected to the detector, and then detector will sense, and accordingly it will send the signal to the data processor, where the data is processed into the computer understandable format, and it will be converted into the chromatogram, where we can analyze that. Okay. So this is a isocratic system. Then there is a low pressure gradient system is also there. One is isocratic, low pressure gradient system. Now in low pressure gradient system, you can see here we have A, B, C, D mobile reservoirs or the solvent bottles, and what this will do, it will take the particular volume from each of these bottle, and it will be pumped, and it will be sent to the further part of the instrument towards the injector, column and detector. So here it is the injector where we can inject our sample, then we have a column in place, then detector and the recorder. Okay. So one pump used to control the 4 reservoirs, that's why the pressure is less, because we have only one pump, and one pump is pumping the solvent system which is present in these 4 bottles. So it requires good power, right? And usually one pump, if it is pumping the liquid or solvent system from 4 different bottles, obviously its efficiency will be lower down, and that's why the pressure is not so high, and hence it is called as low pressure gradient system. Okay. And in this case online degassing is necessary. So we'll come to that, what is online degassing. Now the next is the high pressure gradient system, which is nowadays widely used. So in high pressure gradient system, let's say if I have 3 reservoir bottles, bottle A, B and C, so I have a dedicated pumps for that particular reservoir system. So to pump the liquid of A, I have a dedicated pump, and for B I have another dedicated pump, and so on. Okay. So compared to the earlier one, obviously because of I am utilizing 3 pumps, it can very forcefully pump the liquid from these bottles individually, and here the advantage is we have a mixer here. So what is the role of this mixer? Let's say I want to prepare the solvent system from this A, B and C bottle. So A has different solvent, B has different solvent, C has different solvent, and I want to use the starting composition of solvent system, let's say as 1:1:1. Okay, so I will give the command to the software or the system. I will ask the system to pump these three solvents in a ratio of 1:1:1. So it will automatically take that particular solvent and it will mix properly all these three solvents in this particular mixer, and after mixing only it will be sent towards the column. Okay, so here your manual mixing of solvent or preparation of mobile phase is eased out, right? It is very easy because it is an automated one. Okay, and as you are doing a gradient system, over the period of time you need to change the solvent composition. So let's say you have started with 1:1:1. After 5 minutes I want to increase the polarity. Now I will make it as 1:1:2. Okay, so I will give the command to the instrument in the beginning itself, right? After 5 minutes I need to change the composition of solvent system, and it should be 1:1:2 rather than 1:1:1. So it will automatically take after 5 minutes that particular composition, it will mix it and it will send to the column. Okay, so that is called as a sophistication. So because of 3 pumps the pressure is very good. So as the pressure is good, the time can be saved. We can get the chromatogram in a few minutes. So we have excellent gradient accuracy, and multiple pumps are used, and online degassing may not be critical. Okay, so we can degas the solvent system or the mobile phase in the instrument itself. Okay, so in situ we can do the degassing, then the rest part of the instrument is same. Okay, so isocratic and gradient chromatography are listed here. All conditions and setting parameters are held constant, and in gradient one or more parameters are varied constantly throughout the experiment. And typical gradient is a variation of the mobile phase composition from low to high elution strength. Okay, and you can also do a temperature gradient, so where we can keep on increasing or decreasing. Usually we go in ascending order when we do a temperature program or temperature gradient elution, where we start with lower temperature and we keep on increasing the temperature, especially for the substances which are thermolabile. Then we can also perform a flow gradient. Flow gradient is the flow rate. Let's say I am given a command to a particular instrument. The flow rate of a chromatographic system is 1 ml per minute. So that means 1 ml of mobile phase is eluting from a column for 1 minute. Okay, so I am doing that for initial 10 minutes. After 10 minutes I may increase the flow rate. So rather than 1 ml per minute, I can increase the capacity of pump, and I can make it 2 ml per minute. So I will increase the pressure and I can make it flow gradient. So that is also possible, but most of the times we perform a gradient elution with the variation in the mobile phase, either increasing or decreasing the polarity. Okay, and temperature and flow gradient can also be done based on the application or what kind of sample you are going to analyze. Now coming to the first part of instrument in LC, that is the mobile phase reservoir. Okay, so before starting this particular part, do you have any doubt in whatever we have discussed? Is it clear, all of you? Sreyash?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now starting with the instrumentation of LC, mobile phase reservoir and the solvent treatment system. Okay, so in this case what we are doing, we are preparing the solvent system, and once the solvent system is prepared, where we have to store this. So we have a solvent reservoir system in a chromatographic system, So this is a equipped with sparger or degasser, and it also has the inlet filters. Okay, so we'll see what these are and what is the role of each of these. So we have also special type of millipore filtering device to remove the undesired particulate matter, because if we have any particulate matter in the solvent or in the mobile phase, what will happen, it may clog your pump or it may clog your column. Okay, because these undesirable particulate matter can block your column and it will decrease the efficiency of the column, or it can also break the column. Then reservoir may be equipped with the back pressure regulator. As you are using very high pressure, usually 4000 psi, so what will happen, because of high pressure there is a possibility that it will give back pressure, because in column we have very fine particle size and that will cause a back pressure. So you should have to have pressure regulator which can manage this back pressure. Then reservoir are made up of stainless steel and or borosilicate glass with a capacity of 500 ml to 1 liter. So usually most of the times the reservoir bottles are made up of glass, which is a very high quality grade glass, borosilicate glass, and usually the volume is 500 ml to 1 liter. Okay, so this particular schematic diagram indicates what is the meaning of online degassing. Okay, so I will tell you what is the meaning of online degassing in a very simple way. When we have a solvent, the solvent usually contains some dissolved gases. Okay, and these dissolved gases, if at all present in the solvent system, and without removing these dissolved gases, if you inject into the column, what will happen, because of the high pressure, because you are using a high pressure through the pump, because of the pressure there is a possibility that the gas will try to come out when you are injecting into the column. Okay, and when the gas is coming out of the solvent or the mobile phase, it may disturb the column packing. Okay, and it will decrease the resolution as well as the efficiency of column, and more important, it will decrease the life of the column. Okay, so there is very important to remove the dissolved gases in a solvent system. Okay, the simplest and best example of considering the dissolved gases, all of you have the refrigerator in your home, and what we do, we keep the water in the ice tray. Okay, and after certain time, when you try to remove the ice cubes from the ice tray, usually the ice cubes are not clear. How you see the ice cubes? They are not transparent, rather they are very whitish, right? And we can see there are some globules or the entrapped air. That globules is nothing but the entrapped air which is there in the ice cubes. So that is the best example of dissolved gases which we can see when we freeze the water. Okay, so water has a dissolved gas, and when you freeze that particular water in the ice cube, we can see rather than transparent, they are whitish or they are non-transparent. Okay, so one of the easiest way to remove the dissolved gases from the water or particular solvent is you can boil it. Okay, so you can try this. You can boil the water and allow it to cool, and without much disturbing or shaking the container, you gently pour that water in the ice tray, and then you can freeze that. You will get a very transparent ice cubes. Okay, so that is how you are degassing the dissolved gases from the solvent system or a particular water. But this is a manual way, and you cannot boil all the solvents what you are using in a HPLC system, because most of the solvents are non-polar and they are volatile and they are flammable. Okay, so we have the online degassers. Now, one of the simplest way to degas the solvent system is a helium purge method. So you can see here there is a solvent reservoir bottle, and we have the system in which there is a helium cylinder is kept, and helium cylinder is passed through a regulator, through these tubings, and they will be bubbled through this particular solvent. So you know helium is a inert gas, right? What it will do, as helium is bubbled through this particular solvent system, when it is bubbling through the solvent system, it will remove the dissolved gases from the solvent. Okay, and then the gas which is coming out from this bottle is removed from this draft valve. Okay, so we have a drain valve and which has a vacuum, and this will remove the gas which has been released from the solvent system that can be taken out from this particular reservoir bottle. Okay, so this is one of the way which is widely used for degassing, and we can do this online means during the experiment. Okay, so you need not to degas manually and then you have to keep the bottle here. During the chromatographic run itself, when you start the experiment, you can also start this online degasser, and simultaneously it will keep on degassing, and then the degassed solvent will be pumped through this particular pump through the column. Okay, and then another is gas liquid separation membrane method. So this is the system you can see here. It is also connected with the pump, and here we have a polymeric film which is similar to the membrane filter. Okay, so you know that membrane filter which can filter the particulate matter as well as the dissolved gases. Okay, so those dissolved gases will not be allowed to pass through this polymeric film tube, and the degassing can be done. Okay, and then you have a vacuum chamber here and then the solvent which is degassed can be allowed to move in the particular column, and this particular this thing is called as the inlet filter. Okay, so what you are observing at the end of this particular tubing is nothing but this. Okay, so this has a carbon bed, and it has a small bore size which can filter if at all any particulate matter or any undesired substance is present in your solvent system, that can be filtered out. So here you have a stainless steel tubing here, so to this you can connect your tubing of this one, this HPLC system, and this can be just dipped down in this particular bottle. So you can see here the actual reservoir bottle. On the top lid we have a small bore to accommodate these pipes, and at the end you can see here the sparger is connected, and this is helium purge and filtered solvent intake tubes. So this is a helium online degasser which